we're back for the second installment of my training series leading up to the tribute meet. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my approach to deadlift training for this meet, and at the end I'll touch on why I'm switching to mixed grip and kind of what happened at the US Open and why I think it's smart to change things up moving forward. But so we're going to start showing some cluster singles that I've been doing on deadlift, and you've been following me on Instagram, you already know I've been experimenting with this style of deadlift training for a while. Cluster singles are essentially just multiple singles that you're doing with short rest in between. I was shooting for about 45 seconds here for 10 singles, and I'm only going to show you the last 3 because it's kind of boring to just watch me rest in between singles. But the point of this style of training goes to specificity in competition. So when you pull a deadlift in competition, you're really only going to be pulling 1 rep at a time, and it's always going to start from the floor. So if you're doing a set of multiple reps where you're putting the bar down in between each one, but you're still staying down, you're staying tight, you keep that stretch reflex. And so it's not quite the same as a meet lift would be. With squat and bench, you're always starting from the top, so you always have that same stretch reflex, and it doesn't really matter whether you do singles or multiple reps. So that's the reason I've been incorporating this style of training. I don't really like it because I don't enjoy it because it's not exciting to me. To pull a pretty easy single, you can see this is my 8th single in 8 minutes or something like that, and it's still really, really easy. But I do think that this type of training is going to pay off because, as I've mentioned in the past, I need to pull back a little bit. I've been overreaching in my training and underperforming at meets as a result of that. So I actually think this is the 9th single. I'll talk through some of the cues that I'm going through here. Again, I'm going to touch more on grip at the end, but when I set up, I'm trying to make sure that my hips, my knees, my shoulders, and my feet are all aligned. And you can see I'm a little bit too far over the bar on this one. I'm not totally happy with it. But when you can find that stacked position, see, shoulder's just a little too bit far forward, but it still moves really well. And when you can find that stacked position, the bar just feels like it skyrockets up. Whereas if you're just a little bit off, it's going to feel so much heavier. So I was pretty pumped after that last single because it moved so well. And again, hot gym and the training workout, this is a good sign. So I decided to bump the weights up a little bit and then do a beltless single, I believe, for this last one. And that's the one you guys saw at the beginning of the clip here. So there's probably a little bit of a longer break in between while I changed the weights. I probably shouldn't have gone up quite as much, but the thing is, it's moving well. This goes back to training by feel. I'm going to have an article about this on my site in the next week or so. My site, phdeadlift.com, on my blog, about how you can use different styles of auto-regulation. So you guys are probably familiar with RPE, but there's other styles as well. You can do velocity-based auto-regulation. And you can do just training by feel, where you're not really quantifying anything, but you kind of think, okay, well, what would be a good number? What am I capable of? Here I thought a beltless single at 295, which I was scheduled to do 287.5. It's pretty moderate. It's a 2% increase, which is the amount of wiggle room I give myself. But it would be something fun, something to boost my confidence, and something that I knew I could do really easily. And as you can see, it really moves quickly. Now, normally I still wouldn't be all that excited about a 295 pull. For me, that's only about 80% or so, 75-80%. But the thing is, I did tweak my pec earlier this week, and there was no pain at all today. I'm good to go. And so I was really excited that I was feeling healthy. So after all that, I then did a set of multiple reps. I took some more rest. This was just to kind of get some of that urge to train a little bit harder out of my system. And I make sure to account for this in my overall training plan. So it was just a moderate set of 5. This is not all out by any means, but it was a little bit more fun than all those singles. And so that has a lot of value. You really have to think about having fun in your training and balancing that fun with going all out all the time. You have to find that sweet spot, because if you don't enjoy your training, you're not going to train to the utmost of your ability. And if you just do what's fun all the time, you're not going to train in a productive manner. You're probably going to burn yourself out. Or if you have the opposite mentality, you're just going to slack off a lot. So it's really, really important to try and find that balance. And I'm pretty happy with that. That was a clean set, nice and easy after all that other work. To finish up my training, I did 4 sets of 6 on kabuki bar squats, front squats. These were light, easy. I was bearing them. This is just for some extra quad work. I find that quad work really helps my squat and my deadlift, so I try and incorporate a lot of it. I like the Kabuki bar for front squats. It feels much more balanced, much easier to keep in that rack position than the straight bar. So if you guys can afford that, it's an excellent training tool. I don't have anything really special to mention about these. These were easy, other than the fact that it's hot as fuck in that gym. So I did 4 sets of these. I did some reverse hypers. I did some pull downs, and I called it a day. It was a pretty solid training session.
So a lot of people seem to be commenting on the fact that at the US Open, when it came time to deadlift, I went out to pull my opener with a hook grip, missed pretty badly, and then came out and took my other 2 reps with a mixed grip. So I wanted to talk about that for a moment. First, I will be switching to mixed grip in the future, so I'll talk about that. I'll touch on that a little bit more in a second. I seem to have trouble gripping on the new Kabuki deadlift bar. I don't want to point fingers at the bar in particular. You guys got to keep in mind, I pulled a total of 3 reps on this bar at the end of a very stressful meet prep, and 2 of those reps were misses. So, you know, it's kind of silly to draw any conclusions about the bar itself. Chris Stuffin and the Kabuki guys are very generously giving me a bar, sending me a bar to borrow to play with so that I can kind of figure out what might have been going on. But I will say that I really love pulling mixed grip. So what happened was I go out, I try to pull my first rep hook, and it just slips right out of my hand immediately. And I step off the platform and I talk to my coach and I'm like, look, Jacob, there's no way I can't pull this bar hook grip. And so he goes, well, then you have 2 choices. You can either drop out of the meet or you can pull mixed grip. And I'm like, not dropping out, bro. So we go in the back, we pull a rep with, I think, 500 pounds mixed grip. First mixed grip rep I've done in at least a year, probably a lot longer. And it feels great. So we're like, all right, let's roll with it. We go out, pull my opener easily 733. You know, smoked it, felt great. And that's the heaviest mixed grip rep I've ever pulled in my life, and it was no problem at all. Now, for a long time, I've avoided mixed grip entirely because before I started powerlifting, I did tear my right bicep training for a strongman meet. Now, I was being very stupid when I tore this bicep. I was attempting to flip a 1,000-pound tire. At the time, I weighed about 170 pounds, and the competition weight for my tire was something like 500. So I go out and I try and flip a 1,000-pound tire, get it to my hip. I can't walk it over because I'm too short. So I try again, same result. And the 3rd time, I'm like, I'm really going to get this motherfucker. So I go out and just kind of bull rush the damn thing and try and curl it, essentially, and pop my bicep. So very, very stupid move on my part, but it really gets in your head. If you've ever had an injury like that, you know you're kind of paranoid. You're very protective of it, consciously or subconsciously. And so for that reason, I always pull hook grip after that. I was like, look, when I get to a heavy deadlift grip, I'm going to be scared about pulling mixed no matter what. I'm scared of an injury, and so that's going to get in my head. It's really going to interfere with my pull, so I might as well just pull hook. Well, I go out on the biggest stage imaginable, and I attempt all-time PR deadlift, mixed grip, and I have no fear whatsoever. Doesn't even enter my mind. And after pulling that 733 with no practice, I have a lot of confidence that, hey, maybe I can come back and maybe I can pull mixed grip just fine. So 2 days later, I go into CETC training center, or gym, and I do some rack pulls just from about an inch, maybe 2 inches of range of motion, but I work up to 815, no problem, mixed grip. So I'm feeling really, really positive about doing some mixed grip work in the future, especially because I've been trying to strengthen my hook grip for a long, long time, and nothing I do seems to make these things stronger. You know, I really think the hook grip is very dependent on the size of your hands, your hand mobility, thumb mobility in particular, finger mobility, and the technique that you use to hook grip, and it's not really something you can strengthen by strengthening the muscles of your hand. And for mixed grip, that's very obviously not the case, right? There's a very long history of a lot of powerlifters who have strengthened their mixed grip by just doing simple grip exercises. So I'm very, very excited about this transition. I think it's going to be something that's extremely valuable to me. I think that if I don't have grip problems, there's no reason I can't in the future be an 850, maybe even a 900-pound puller. So that's my plan. I will be implementing grip-specific work. So on my heavy deadlift training days, after my deadlifts, I'll be doing some partial range of motion, some rack pulls, maybe some band pulls, in an attempt, and then holding the bar at the top and then attempt to get a little bit of overload there. I'll also be doing grip specific work, things like plate pinches, things like thick bar curls, thick bar reverse curls, even wrist curls, other sorts of things like that, maybe even some gripper exercises in order to strengthen my hands to the point where I don't even have to think about my grip. I really think that by doing that, that will allow me to take additional strain off my bicep. You know, if you don't have to think about your hands, then you're a lot less likely to tense up. And when you tense up and really try and bend those elbows off the floor, that's when you tend to run into bicep problems. So that's my plan moving forward. Again, really excited about it. Really think this is going to be successful for me. Please don't draw any conclusions about the Kabuki bar. The damn thing isn't even released yet, so I know a lot of people have been talking about it. I'm pretty excited to use it, and I will tell you, it sure as hell does stick to your hand when you're pulling mixed grip. So I will try and do some experiment, try and figure out, okay, what maybe was going on with the hook grip, but in competition, I'll be using mixed grip in the future. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll answer as best I can. No guarantees. I don't claim to be a grip master or grip guru at all, but I will do my best to help out.